Hey VC, my name's Dave. This is my coronavirus quarantine 2020 video. Video tag. Got 20 questions here, so we're just gonna get right into it. This is my third video. The other two I made were both contest entries, so this is my first one, first tag, video tag. Okay, the first question is a favorite from my home city. Well, I live right outside of Boston, which gives us a lot of choices. Boston had a lot of bands. I'm going to go with the Del Fuegos, a really great band from the mid-'80s. They released 5 albums. This is probably their best one. It's called Boston, Mass. Got quite a bit of airplay back in the day. Some really great songs on here called Don't Run Wild, Sound of Our Town, I Still Want You, It's All Right. Really great album, really good band. A lot of people say that they suffer from 1980s production, but I disagree. They were a 1980s band, and they're supposed to sound like this. Second question is an album that I would recommend. I'm going to recommend this 10 Years After album, Alvin Lee and Company. 1972, really 10 years after, 10 years after's probably last good album. There's a really great little nugget on side 2 called Portable People, and there's also a 24-minute jam on side 2, and side 1 is pretty good too. Really like Alvin Lee, saw these guys twice. Second time I saw him, I was in the 4th row at the Orpheum Theater in Boston, so that was pretty sweet. And the third question is an album that got me into deeper music. Back in the early 1970s, I was really into Deep Purple, really liked them, went to go see them in concert, had the Machine Head album, somehow found this, which is Purple Passages, which is a compilation of their first 3 albums that I had absolutely no idea that even existed. I didn't even have any idea. I had heard of Hush, but I thought that that was just a single. I had no idea of the rest of these songs. I had never heard any of these albums. So eventually, I was able to track them all down, including the third one, which is simply titled Deep Purple. That's a little bit of a grail. I got them, all 3 of them. So, yep, that would be that. I had no idea that this even existed. So I would say that this would be the one that got me into deeper music, because I had no idea that any of these songs existed beyond what was on the radio. Okay, the next album is Show, an obscure album. Well, I got a pretty obscure album here. Another band from Boston, Chuck Mcdermott and Wheat Straw. This was their first album. Back in the mid-1970s, there was quite a country music movement that started out in Foxborough, Walpole, Plainville area. Here in Massachusetts, everybody's probably pretty familiar with Foxborough. That's where the Patriots Stadium is. It was pretty rural out there. It still is. It still is. The movement was mainly started by a guy named John Lincoln Wright. I talked about him in one of my other videos. This album is really good. This guy, Chuck Mcdermott, was a fantastic singer, an excellent songwriter. At times when you listen to this, you almost think like you're going to be listening to the next big thing. Some of this was recorded at Walpole at a studio out there, and some of it was recorded at a nightclub in Cambridge. It's really a good song, really a good album. They cover Queen of the Silver Dollar, and also there's a couple real standout songs that Chuck Mcdermott wrote called Barstool Number 1. There's also one called I Don't Appreciate Automobiles. This is real country music, country western music. It's not country rock. Backdoor Records. I'm assuming that there probably isn't a lot of these around. I'll show the label real quick. I don't know if you can get a close-up of that label. Turn it around here. Backdoor Records on Beacon Street in Boston. So, pretty obscure album by a guy that really should have done other things, but I really have no idea whatever happened to him. Okay, the next question is a group that I've collected all the albums. Well, I've done quite a few. I actually have quite a few. I'm sort of a completist, but we're going to be coming over here for 1 second. And speaking of 10 years after, I have all of the 10 years after albums here. I really like these guys a lot. Like I said before, I saw these guys twice. I also saw Alvin Lee on a co-headlining tour with John Kay back in the late 80s, and that was pretty sweet too. So yep, all the 10 years after albums. Next question is a band where the second album was better than the first. Well, have the first Leonard Skinner album, which was really great for a debut album, knocked it out of the park. Freebird is on here, along a host of other things, but in my opinion anyway, second album better. Much more complete, flows much better, and they really hit their stride with the second album. So, yep, I'm going to say that. Leonard Skinner, number 1, good. Leonard Skinner, number 2, better. Next question is, album, let's show and tell a whack-a-mole. All right. I don't really have these records in any kind of chronological or alphabetical order. They just sort of are just kind of grouped by genre. This box right here is pretty much of a catch-all, just some stuff in here that didn't really fit anywhere else, so I'm going to go to this box, and I'm not going to look. I'm going to do my best Maz impersonation, except I don't have a hat. And I'm going to just reach in here and grab something out of here. All right, Hall & Oates, Rock and Soul number 1. This is a compilation of some of their best hits. Sarah Smile, she's gone. Oh, what a fantastic album this is. You could just put this on and just relive the 80s. It's really great. Everything they did was just so good. Really great singers, songwriters. So, yep, Hall & Oates, Rock and Soul, Volume 1. Okay, next question is, show an album that I've listened to the most. Well, I have 2 of them. MC5 back in the USA. And Slade. Both of these records are the third ones I have because I wore out the other 4 completely. So these would be the 2 records that I've listened to the most. Love these. Both of these albums are fantastic. Next question is, show an album with a crazy story. Okay, we're going to have to walk over here for 1 second. I've been going to the Salvation Army every single Saturday for the last 12 years, and that's not virtually every Saturday I go to the Salvation Army for the last 12 years. I haven't done it lately because they're obviously been closed, but every Saturday I would walk in there and there would be the normal pile of records stacked up and go over and go through them all. This particular time, about 4 years ago, I walked in. This record was right on top of the pile. I picked it up. I was like, are you kidding me? Nobody bought this thing? At 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, it was still there. So I was very happy and pleased to buy this for 49 cents. I love Johnny Cash. Buy any Johnny Cash album I happen to find. And this is a particularly very good album, especially side 1, very strong. Okay, my collection pet peeves. Pretty simple. Morons who put price stickers on the front of albums. This is the Grand Funk E Pluribus Funk. You can see that not only 1, but they put 2 on there, which peels off the top of the album every single time. This album was a little hard to find in any kind of decent shape. The covers always seem to get ripped apart. This one is in really good condition, which is why I still have it. But God, I wish somebody had not put price stickers on the front of this. That's my pet peeve. An album you like that's a surprise. Well, I'm certainly not a big rap or hip-hop fan, never have been. Never really thought I would ever have a hip-hop or rap album. When I was at the Salvation Army, I was looking through the massive pile of crappy records they have down there, and I happened to find this. Public Enemy. I had heard of them. I knew that they were a leading group. I decided for 99 cents, I'll take a chance and buy this. Quite pleasantly surprised. I liked a lot of this, and it spurred me on to pick up a few more, not only of their albums, but I also got a couple Run DMC albums and an Eminem album. This record wasn't really completely destroyed. It was dirty. I cleaned it, and it plays pretty good. I know the cover is pretty beat up, but so yeah, I would say that this would be the album that would be a surprise that I actually have. Okay, show a record from the year you were born. Well, I was born in 1955, and I don't have any records from 1955. But I do have this. The Bill Haley and the Comets Greatest Hits. This is a live album. Judging from the photo, it's obviously later, but the song Rock Around the Clock was released in 1955. Bill Haley does a really nice job at his concert. I know later on in life he had alcohol problems, but his voice sounds really good, and the band is top-notch on this. Doesn't say where or when it was recorded, but I would probably have to say sometime in the late, maybe early 80s, somewhere around in that area. But it's a really another thrift store find. And yep, Rock Around the Clock, released in 1955. Okay, show a 10-inch. Well, I have about 14 10-inches. Show a couple of them. They're really, really, really old, or they're relatively new. So this is the newer one. This is Caius, a young Caius. It's just a 2-song on Man's Ruin Records. Show the label, if you could make that out. It's certainly pretty far from Blues for a Red Sun, but all the pieces are there, and Josh Homme, a genius, really liked that guy, and went on to bigger and better things. And yep, so that would be Caius, Into the Void, and Fatso Forgetso on Man's Ruin Records. Some record company in San Francisco. I really don't know anything about them. And the other one I have is a really old one. Pete Seeger Concert, probably from the early 1950s. Folk songs and ballads. This is a double album. Found this in a pile of records in the lady's basement who had passed away. They gave me the whole pile of records. There was about 350 of them in there. And there was only about 22 or 23 that I actually kept. And this is one of them. It's really good. It's pretty much, Pete Seeger, the guy played for 70 years. And but it's really good. It's obviously early, and he sounds really strong on it. So it's really a good record. Very nice. Okay, the next question is, share an interesting fact about a record. Well, this Rod Stewart and the Faces Live album, this was recorded in San Francisco. Not in San Francisco, it was recorded in LA at the Forum back in 1973. And but if you open up the gatefold and take a look inside, the photo that's inside here, this is the old Boston Garden. Specifically the old Boston Garden on July 3rd of 1973, because I was there. And right there, that's me. Right next, that's my brother Jimmy. And this guy right here is my friend Bob Norcus. And that's exactly where we were sitting. And that is us in that photo. And it's really kind of nostalgic for me to take a look at this now because both of these guys are gone now. But we had a great time, and that was a spectacular concert. Hot, very hot that day, but July 3rd, 1973. Okay, next question is, show a record with an animal on the cover. I can't make a video without talking about Black Oak, Arkansas. This is their third album called High on the Hog. This album here was probably their Sgt. Pepper. This has Jim Dandy on it and a bunch of other terrific songs. They were a really great group. I got all their albums. I believe that they should probably be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Probably never will be, but they should be. Probably the first Southern band with 3 guitar players. And this guy, the drummer, fantastic drummer. Unreal. Guy was really, really good. So, and there's the inside of the album. And of course, Jim Dandy right here. David Lee Roth just ripped him off, stole his singing style, his stage presence, everything. David Lee Roth must have listened to all these albums 80,000 times when he was like 14. I just want to be just like Jim Dandy. So, there you go. An album with an animal on the cover. Okay, the next album is Show an Album with Crazy Artwork. Well, Sun Ra was an out there guy, and this is a self-portrait that was printed on the front of this record, 1965, this released. I found this in the same pile of records that I got the Pete Seeger album out of. It was just full, 95% of that pile was just junk. And there was about 6 or 7 jazz albums, and this was one of them. Thank you very much. So that's some crazy artwork from a really out there guy. Okay, show a cheap, good album. This album you can buy at any dollar bin, anywhere in the United States, anywhere. Dollar bins, Salvation Army, thrift stores, yard sales, you'll find us anywhere. The first Boston album. It was one of the biggest selling debut albums of all time. And so this would be my choice for show a cheap, good album. This album, the perfect record, you could put it on and listen to the whole thing. And every single song will just take you back to the 1970s like really no other record I could really think of. Just a spectacular album. First Boston album. Okay, we're up to question number 19, an acquired taste. Well, back in the 70s, I hated disco, like with a passion. But since I've learned to really appreciate it, and I like it, a lot of it, from the mid to late 70s disco. So I picked this album here, probably one of the better groups, The Tramps. This album has 10 minutes and 47 seconds of Disco Inferno. To borrow a line from Mr. Dawson Loops, will absolutely boil your brain. It just is incredible. And here's these guys, just the disco movement right there. So I have actually quite a few disco albums, and this one, probably one of the better ones. And the last question is the newest find. Well, I haven't been able to go out and find anything because all the stores are closed. But back in November of last year, I moved some stuff out of a lady's house. I just asked her if she had any records she wanted to sell. She just gave me about 15, 16 albums that were in the bottom of a cabinet. Mostly Southern rock albums. 38 Special and Wet Willie. There was a Dickie Betts album. There was a couple other albums I really didn't recognize, and there was a couple hard albums in there. So I'm going through there, nothing really spectacular. And then I find this. John Lee Hooker, The Blues. It's an old record on a strange label. This record is got such a hard edge to it. It sounds like it was recorded in a locker room. It's really great. Of course, John Lee Hooker, you can't go wrong with him. The back, and I'll pull out the record. United Superior Records in Los Angeles, California. Pull the record out so you can see the label. And the record's in almost virtual mint condition, too. So, yeah, that would be my find, to say the least. When I pulled this out, I almost fell over. Just, get this for free. Mr. John Lee Hooker. What a fantastic blues band. Okay, and that's my 20 questions and my coronavirus quarantine tag. So bye-bye, everybody.